Here we are. Thanks everyone for tuning in. This is another episode of the Scoped Exposure Podcast, episode 100. Super crazy to finally be here. My name is Spencer, for those who've been living under a rock. I'm joined today by a number of homies that have helped me with a lot of things related to Scope, not only with this podcast, but the other aspects of what we do. So today I'm joined by Cole, who handles a lot of our photos and merch related things. Matt, out of Kelowna, he does a lot of film and video stuff and graphics and social media, kind of a lot of stuff. And lastly, Jordan, who's another videographer. He helps me with a lot of multicam aspects. I'll just say it now because, it's eventually coming down the pipe, but going to be the podcast producer once we're able to do things more in person versus over Zoom here. But yeah, guys, this is episode 100. Thank you so much for being here.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Rock and roll.
Shit. Was that did I hit on all the aspects of what everyone does?
Yeah, definitely. I think
so. I got it.
Cool. Well,
I didn't think I was going to get a producer tagline on the podcast thing, but
yeah, well,
I'll take it.
Just gasses him up.
Well, there's a bunch of new things. This podcast has been very essential for Scoped overall, especially in the age of no shows and us running out of content. Really, almost it's getting up on a year now, but we're definitely going to talk about a lot of different things. How this podcast started, some of the top episodes and some stats and some of our personal favorite episodes. But before we do that, obviously have to do the bev check. So we got four different bevs. Cole, how about you go first, as you're already premiering yours?
Okay, so I got the grapefruit, guru water, some sort of energy water thing. Spencer dropped this off today. It was pretty nice of him, honestly.
Yeah, it was funny.
Brave to the freezing cold temperatures.
Dude, can we just say it's freaking cold in Canada right now?
Yeah.
Minus 30 degrees Celsius. I think it's so cold when I'm seeing my American friends post the weather app on their story and it's negative 0 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm like, yeah, it is that cold in the world.
The world just be freezing cold right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, this looks good. Thanks for dropping it off, man.
Of course. It was funny, leading up to this, where I was like, I always have things on deck, but I was like, I don't know how elaborate these guys' fridges are, so I want to make sure that we check some good bevs for episode 100. How about you go next, Matt? I think you might need to turn up your mic just a hair.
How's this?
That's better. Yeah. So
Okay, cool.
What are you sipping on?
So I'm sipping on, I'm sipping on something local. I'm really excited about this one. So I'm drinking Big Mario from B&A Brewing.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
It's an NY IPA. I got all this lighting, but you can't hit on it. Anyways, it's from a local brewing company called B&A. They're making a lot of moves, and well, I'm a gamer, so shout out to Mario and Nintendo. And that's what I'm sipping on.
That's awesome. Yeah, I've never seen that before. First time it's being checked on the podcast. Pretty historic. That's very
First time for everything.
First time for everything. That's right.
Yeah. It's a nice, easy IPA.
Yeah. I was chatting with Cole the other day about just beers that he likes, and Cole, you don't fuck with IPAs that I know of.
I don't really fuck with beer all that often, really. I'll
Fair. Okay.
If I went to a show that's usually sometime that has beer available, I'll probably have some in social situations. But yeah, I'm usually more of just the devil's lettuce kind of man,
The devil's lettuce. Very nice. Yeehaw. Jordan, what do you got for the show?
Okay, so Spencer dropped off this Kiju mango iced tea, all organic. Left it on my front porch while I was in class, and I ran upstairs to him driving off, peeling out of the snow.
Because Jordan, when it comes to bevs, is very picky. So, when I
I'm
was
not
like,
that
well,
picky. I just
you're
You
like,
don't
I don't
drink
want
water
anything
and tea.
carbonated. I don't want anything energy wise.
yeah, I've never had an energy drink, and I really only drink water and tea. But
Sometimes that's how it is.
That's how the way it should be. That's the way it should
Yeah.
be.
I guess so. I will recommend highly the Guru Energy that I gave to Cole. I haven't tried the one that Jordan's getting, so you'll have to give a comprehensive review somewhere through this episode.
well, it's so good. I shared it with my shirt.
Just spilling already. For me, I actually bought a bev for this podcast, and it was a
Ooh.
company that I had hit up about a sponsorship, because anyone who listens to this podcast regularly knows I'm avid to try and get that for season 2. And
What? You want a sponsorship?
I want free drinks for life.
Don't we all?
And they emailed me back saying, "Oh, like thanks for reaching out, Spencer. We can't ship to the West or something. Like they have product in the store, but I think they said that they're only available for pickup within Quebec is where they're from." So I was like,
Okay.
all right, well, maybe in the future, but I'm not going to give you the 100 episode bev check. That's pretty, that's exclusive. So I'm making an exception. I usually check a mash, any podcast with a band that I would
Brings
mosh
up
with.
the mash.
But I'm making an exception because this flavor is ridiculously good. It's ripe mango, blood orange.
Oh,
And
damn.
I've reached out to Mash to be like, yo, Scoped Exposure
What's up?
Podcast, bev check, let's go. Well, I'm very, very excited to be doing this with you guys. This has been a long time coming and a big idea that I've been wanting to do. I'm trying to open this while I'm like hosting this show. If we can all hold up our bevs for
You're
a
doing
celebratory 100 episode cheers. And if you are listening to this or watching this and are safe to do so, don't do this while you're driving or anything stupid like that.
Unless you're driving a Tesla.
Unless it's a Tesla. Cheers. 100 episodes, Scoped Exposure.
Ooh.
Let's go.
Throw out the confetti.
So, yeah, like it's been a while since I've had, multiple Scope members on a podcast. I think the last time we did something like that was for our 3-year anniversary, which was
Yeah.
around August, September of 2020. So I thought it would be probably good to just do a homie check-in, see how everyone's doing, in this very weird time that we're still in. Jordan, you mentioned you were in school. You want to share what's going on with that or what you're in school for?
I don't want to share what I'm in school for.
It's confidential.
A little bit too personal. I will say that's like 60 to 70 hours a week.
Yeah, very
Sounds
busy.
like fun.
And I'll be done in August, so that would be sweet. Hopefully quarantine kind of bips off and ends and I can just start working and move on.
Yeah.
But working on some random projects that might not no, though. Don't worry, Spencer. I'll finish it. Don't worry. Keep it secret, though.
Yeah, Jordan
Yeah,
is
just-
staying very busy with, a lot of different ideas around the podcast. But yeah, I cut you off there.
Yeah. Just game and try not to get too depressed.
Yeah, that is a vibe
Damn.
right now for sure.
Uh,
Cole, what about you?
Well, still unemployed normally, I guess, but I'm on EI and just screen printing and trying to make that more of a sustainable kind of thing for me. So
Yeah. I know, anyone that follows you knows that you've been heavy on trying to do a bunch of different like bootlegs and things like that and different designs.
yeah, I've been on that hustle a bit. Yep.
Yeah. You've done a number of different ones from everything from like, I picked up you did like a Halo 2 one.
Yep.
You did, I think the most recent one you did was Akira.
Yeah, those ones I'm gonna be printing soon, so I'm super stoked.
Yeah.
Super stoked to do that.
Is there like do you have like a list of different things, or does it come up super randomly where you're like, yeah, I should just whip up something in Photoshop and throw it up and see who wants to
I just
pick
do
it
shit
up?
I like,
Yeah.
honestly. Things that I'm like just stoked on, or stuff that I'm just into. I will just make designs. I have a bunch of that I've made just for fun. So depending if people want them or not, I will print a few of them. That's kind of the way I do it.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
still want that Bioshock one.
Ooh, Bioshock.
Ooh, that's a good idea. Like Bioshock 1 or 2, though.
I'll take either.
Bioshock
They're both
Infinite.
good. Infinite was sweet too, yeah.
I've
What
played
would be the
Infected.
difference in design from 1 to 2? I didn't really play those games a whole lot.
They're pretty similar, honestly. Just the
First two are pretty similar.
yeah.
Yeah.
Infinite's where it starts getting crazy.
I see. Yeah, all the gamers are like, yes, and everyone else is like, what? I don't understand.
What?
People are still
Bio-
talking about Bioshock.
Yeah. Matt, what's up with you out there in Kelowna?
Well, everyone's complaining about the weather, but that's about it. I'm enjoying it. Anyways, so since quarantine or COVID started, my design company, Syndicate Vision, and keeping busy with that, and still trucking away with DJ sets and filming and helping local DJs. So experiencing live streams in person and helping grow that scene and documenting that scene. So that's been fun.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that I'm seeing have like, I'm sure every, DJ set that you're doing is just like a green
Yeah.
background. Like there's nothing crazy until it's going on a
Exactly.
platform or something.
Well, what was it, 2.5 weeks ago? I was filming my good friend Stunned. We decided instead of doing a green screen, we would end up just he has connections with one of the boathouse guys in
Okay.
Kelowna.
Yeah.
And so we filmed a DJ set on a houseboat on the lake.
Oh,
So
cool.
that was something a green screen wouldn't be able to do, but I just got booked to film this one DJ, and we're doing a green screen set, but the visuals are going to be different, and it's something for the gamers. I'll say that.
Oh, interesting.
I'll say that.
What's the
I won't-
weirdest thing that someone has asked to put on the green screen?
Surprisingly, nothing weird. Everyone's kind of like, hey, I have these crazy visuals, but nothing that's like super like, hey, I found this like sketchy clip on Reddit, or like everyone that I've done a green screen set for that gets booked for a show or a fest is like, hey, let's keep this professional, and no one's really wanted anything crazy.
No one's like, here's this deleted scene from Attack on Titan, but the colors are inverted and there's just
exactly.
yeah.
No one really watches anime in the well, no, I shouldn't say that, but
I'm sure lots of DJs are super mad that you just denounced anime on behalf of all of them.
Well, it was nice being here. I'll just leave the room.
There's also a very specific reference there, Spencer.
Yeah.
Well, it was a very basic anime reference, okay? I know,
I thought there was,
I
like,
know
some
Jordan
weird-
can pull out 100 animes off the top of his head.
Why Attack on Titan? Out of all I'm just kidding. But yeah, other than that, and then my girlfriend and I have been messing around with a couple of photography stuff at the studio and trying to stay creative, and so
Yeah. I think that's just been the biggest thing that I've noticed for, all of us and other people that kind of do something similar. Is just creativity of any sort has been one of the few things that just kind of keeps the train rolling in lieu of not really knowing when shows are going to be coming back and some of those things. Yeah. So, 100 episode, big deal. I was getting a lot of messages from people today actually just being like, yo, I listened to your episode with Sunny, who was episode 99. There's a little bit of a discrepancy there, so maybe I can bring that to light. So Sunny theoretically or on paper is episode 99. That's what, it says on the tag and the thumbnail, but actually he is our 100th episode because way back when we were getting things started, we did an episode 0 with Cole. So that was kind of like our pilot episode just to like really just use Cole as like a test dummy to be like, hey, like, does this format
test
work?
dummy.
You know, and I think it, you know, went well. I did listen to that a little while back, and I was like, man, there's some things that I asked you that were just like it was just forcing you to talk, I think.
I'm also not the best person to talk to, so
Yeah. Well, if anything, it just put me under the fire. But there was some ill prepared nature. I think I had to like go to the bathroom halfway through, and Jordan like took over on the mic.
It was very free form.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was very free for me. Definitely more professional as they progressed, which is cool to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I thought it would be cool to kind of like, you know, give a very quick, just not really a history lesson, but just kind of like a context of about like the entirety of the show and how it came to be. I think a lot of people starting podcasts right now have opted to do that. Again, what I was saying earlier of like not having shows and experimenting with other things, but this podcast actually started kind of well before like, you know, a pandemic was even in the picture. So I think originally how as far as we recorded that episode with Cole, I think it was around like March or April of 2019. It was like leading up to Wild Rose that year.
Okay, yep.
And we did that one with Cole to kind of like figure things out. And then at Wild Rose 2019, you know, I was reaching out to a number of different guests to, you know, while they were in town to do things in person. Because, you know, from the get-go, like it was hard for me to transition to doing Zoom because at the beginning I really wanted to do things in person. So, you know, Gabe the Pigeon's in town. I want to interview him. I'm trying to think of the other people that we interviewed that weekend. Oh, Dawn from Swing Low. We did that. Shout out to Nathaniel if you're listening. We did that in his like little like almost the attic of his loft of his house. And it was the day after the pre-show, and Dawn's voice was as harsh as can be. But he was like, "Yeah, it didn't sound like it. I was like, yeah, let's do it."
I was sitting in the corner of the loft, like, because it was an angle. So I was like in the corner of the angle, like hidden behind a table, trying to fit to press the button on the camera.
Yeah. And the whole goal at the beginning was like, let's record some stuff at Wild Rose. I had some other travel planned, and let's kind of like pool some episodes together so we can like start to gradually put things out. And I think that we officially launched the podcast in November of 2019. So it was pretty soon after we did, I think it was a week after we got back from Snow and Flurry, if I'm remembering correctly. We did Snow and Flurry, we came home, and then we announced the podcast. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Sounds right to me.
So yeah, we kind of had this, and I think I wanted in theory to release it sooner. I think there was just a number of different things that just, you know, kind of propelled things. So, you know, when Gabe the Pigeons episode came out, I think that was at the end of the year, but we recorded that in the summer. So, you know, some things weren't as timely. Some episodes actually didn't even come out from recording at Wild Rose 2019. I'm going to, you know, I'm not going to say who it was because I'm hoping to get those people on for season 2 of the podcast. But yeah, there was just some stuff that was just, you know, it really showed me that like lining up my timing with my conversation with the guests and releasing that, like not in like, you know, this is, you know, a pretty good example that we're recording this and it's coming out right around that time that we're hitting 100 episodes versus if it was like, we're on episode 90 and I guess we should do episode 100. So the timing of that was definitely important. And then over time, you know, we're like, okay, we need a space to record these episodes. So we started doing a lot of the podcasts at the Calgary Public Library. That's kind of where Jordan became a very essential on the podcast side because he would come with me, set up the cameras, kind of run the cameras while I was interviewing my guests. And we did a number of episodes there. And then
about 10 or something like that.
Yeah. Obviously, it would be super hard to like list off all of them, but like, you know, the few that come to mind would be like Cody from Serration. We had Curtis Left Hand. We had
Cole Young.
Cole Young. We had Tyler from Plead. Yeah, so we had a number of different people. Ironically, so this is a little funny story. If anyone's an avid listener, we did an episode with Zach of Set Straight. You know, I think he was like episode 89 or something. It was pretty recently, but we were supposed to record an episode the day before lockdown. Like COVID was in the world conversation, but it was like, I think it's in Calgary, but I don't know. So we went. So I woke up that day. Zach asked if they could reschedule because something came up on his end, and I was like, yeah, it's totally fine. And I messaged Evan McIsaac that same morning because we were talking about doing a podcast, but we just hadn't set up a date. And I was like, hey, do you have time today? I know it's last minute, and he was down for it. So we recorded that. And the next day the world shut down, and we haven't been able to get in there to record a podcast since. So that still is really crazy to think about. And, I got a shout out to Evan for, jumping on that spontaneity to do that podcast. And that was a really, really fun conversation with him. He's got a lot of good stories, and someone who's really key in Calgary hardcore here.
That was a really good episode.
Yeah, I agree.
Yep. And then, obviously the next transition was, doing things through Zoom here. And, again, like I was saying earlier, I really wanted to do things in person, but as soon as we were doing things through an online means, it just opened up the world to like, let's interview Anaya from California. Let's interview, fucking like so many people from Florida and all these different places, people over in Europe and all these places. Doll from Fuse, she's from Singapore. So that, I think in my mind, was like just a barrier that I need to get over to be like, yo, there's a lot more benefits here to like recording things through Zoom. And if we get back to doing things in person, like, yeah, we'll definitely do those. But like, this is a huge opportunity to take advantage of versus like trying to be like, no, it needs to be, Joe Rogan style in person. So
Zach's episode was 94.
Okay. Thank you for fact. You should
gonna say
fact
that's-
check on
I was gonna say that's
on
not
all
much
the
for you.
stuff on this podcast here.
You're wrong. I'll
So
be that guy.
you'll be that guy.
It'll be during the dead air.
Yeah. Yeah. Hopefully there's none of
Fact
that
check
where I
there.
have to cut it out. So that's that's a very general overview of the whole, operation of the podcast. Obviously, everyone here has had different, levels of involvement. Jordan, being the most. Jordan, what's your kind of thoughts on just like how things have progressed, and we haven't really been like, it needs to be so this way. Like, we're okay with adapting with the times and changing things as we go along.
Yeah, because we were using this space for, again, like Cody's and other people's episodes, like at the library, but like before that, episodes at the in Wild Rose, we were like up in the pool hall upstairs of the Legion. We filmed the guy from
Excuse me.
are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I think I spit a little bit
Mitch. That's it.
there.
Mitch from Low End. We filmed
Yeah,
like
Mitch
in a
Raven.
back alley, like
in the back
on
of
there.
the trailer, I think it
in the
was.
And
back
the
of
sun was going
trailer.
down, so I was having to adjust the brightness on the video.
People
Oh my
were
gosh,
like
yeah.
sitting off to the side, like sketching me out, and I was like, okay. Like, it's really cool how it's progressed from like kind of run and gun form of like trying to find a spot for the episode, which like when things open up, that's totally cool. And then having a cool space that we can like film the episodes with, have like a proper setup to the point where like we go in the space and it's like bop bop, cameras ready, and you start doing your thing. And yeah, Zoom's opened up so much with it. Didn't open up my involvement in it because I don't really need to be here if you can just record it and do everything. But like once, there'll be some cool things that can happen once, restrictions are gone, because hopefully COVID's somewhat subdued. We'll see how that goes.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, we can be in person. We can do cool new things that I'm not going to talk about. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that there's been a lot of different things where obviously technology is us, although it's been able, obviously it's able to connect us all here on a call here, which I think is like really, really cool. Like even like 5 years ago, like, you'd be Skyping, but like, there's different quality levels there as far as microphones and cameras. But even just like the fact that, yeah, we can do that is huge. Obviously, nothing beats being in the same room as people and being able to, have it, like actually feel the energy that you're going off of one another. Yeah, there's been definite times where, I'm recording a podcast and, I think that someone is going to say something and then they don't say it a certain way and I have to maneuver that, even on this podcast episode here. But, I think, it's a matter, it became a matter of like pros and cons for like, there is way more people that we can hit, especially in a time where A, we can't interview people locally here, and B, people are at home and want content to chew on, whether that's hardcore sets or podcasts or graphics or playlists or whatever it was. And at least for me, I just saw an opportunity and I was like, this is important. Let's bunker down and do it.
Let's get her done.
Cole and Matt, like, you guys have been on a number of different like team episodes that we've done, but a lot of stuff has just been kind of on the outskirts of the other stuff that we're doing for Scoped.
Oh, hell yeah.
What has been your thoughts on just like adding that aspect of, that content style to our overall brand?
My thoughts on it are that it's been awesome. It's been super cool to even though some of the stuff I don't really involve myself much with, but just watching at least you guys work and do a lot of the main stuff has been really cool to see. And I think it's great with the podcast right now. I think that it's awesome that we've made 100 episodes. Like, that's crazy to me.
Yeah, I think it's like, it's almost, if I'm thinking about anything that has kept Scope going over this whole pandemic, it is the podcast. Like the playlists are cool, but I feel like those are very quick blips of either engagement or some attention. But the podcast, even just on the fact that it's long form content, with same thing with the live sets that we were doing. It's like, here's a 12-minute thing of some hype band playing. And now we're doing like, here's an hour-long conversation with some dude in a hype band. And, like there's still been, there's been super great conversations and different blips of stories and stuff that have been shared, that even if we were getting like one view or one listen per podcast, I'm still getting so much value just for myself, asking these questions and people are sharing these insights and stories and anecdotes. I think that's
hell yeah,
really sick.
I think it's sick.
That's cool.
Yeah. Matt, do you have any insights being on the outside? Obviously
Yeah.
Another point is like, you've been on some team podcasts, but everything has been distanced because you're in Kelowna. Like, you haven't been in the same room as us, even when that was safe to do so.
Hopefully the next time we do a in-person team podcast, I can join. And this is actually the first time that my face is being shown. But
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but
I was thinking about it all week. But no, like from my point of view, like because of my girlfriend, again, Anna, I've been getting into podcasts a lot over the last couple of years, and with ever since, like, even when you guys were doing it in person, like, you were still grabbing the scope of multiple people like Mitch and Gabe from like out of Canada because of Wild Rose
Yeah.
and Snow and Flurry, but then because of COVID and technology with Zoom and FaceTime, you're able to broaden who you can reach. And so over, I'd say over the last year, the amount of guests that you've been able to pull in wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for the shift in figuring out how to keep Scope's podcast relevant and also getting the dream guests or just guests in general that wouldn't have been able to have the chance if it wasn't for technology and figuring out how to still push it. So the last year I've been enjoying the surprise guests every Tuesday and Friday.
Yeah, yeah, and I think like a big goal for mine since day one has been like I want to talk about like heavy music and hardcore, but I also want to talk about the stuff that my guests are into outside of that. Whether it's I take photos, I print merch,
Yeah.
I do ballet, I have 6 dogs, like whatever it is. Like I'm always like I think that's really interesting because I think that might catch someone's attention and pull them just deeper into the culture
Exactly.
versus like, oh, I don't like this band, and then
Yeah.
it's
And then
yeah,
it also shows that they're normal people at the end of the day because I
right,
feel like a lot of people think, oh, when you're in a band, that's like music consumes you, which 24/7, which it does, but other interests in life and not just creating the next best riff or the next best album. So
sure, yeah, yeah. I definitely think
yeah.
that to quote Nikki, to I don't know if this is a direct quote, but she was always saying like, like hardcore, it shouldn't be someone's personality trait. Like
No.
hardcore is sick, and being into hardcore and involved in hardcore is very very sick. But to only have your personality be around the cliche nature of this genre is a little weird. I think that there's a lot of really cool things that people in hardcore can rep, whether it's like I'm into guns or I'm into country music or I'm into cars or whatever it is. And I think being able to hear some of those things just kind of enriches the culture again.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, so that's been a super big thing for since day one, and I think I've done an okay job of bringing on different guests with different backgrounds, and a huge thing too. And I've talked with Jordan about this is that sometimes I bring on a guest and I know it's not going to be a hype episode, but I'm like I care about what this person has to say. I care about like having a fruitful conversation with this person. So for me, it's like a lot of people have messaged me about the podcast to like, promote their album and promote their band. And please, like, if you value us and you want to talk about it, like shoot me a message and we'll try and figure something out. But that's still a big North Star for me to like, I want to talk to people, about a number of different things versus just like, I'm trying to get as many hits and episodes as possible. So
this isn't a late night talk show. You're trying to Spencer, every guest is hype.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. We're not trying to be Jimmy Fallon or any of those Looney Tunes out here.
Quality over quantity.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I did want to talk about some. Well, maybe. Yeah. Well, I'll share some stats about the podcast. Since we've hit our 100 episode mark. So a lot of these are obviously kind of rounded up or down. But as far as the time of recording this day, the podcast overall has 15,000 listens. So that's any
Ooh.
play on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever that is.
That's exciting.
And then because
Does
we
that
do
include YouTube?
no, so
Oh,
the YouTube views are a separate thing because ultimately, for anybody who's like, I don't know how podcasting actually works. So we have a video version that's on YouTube, and then we have an audio version. you're probably listening to one of those, obviously. But the audio version gets uploaded to one place and then it's distributed out. Excuse me again. Man, this thing has a lot of it's a high percentage for burps.
Spencer loses control on episode 100.
Spencer loses control. But like I was saying, the YouTube, we're at 17,000 views. So together, that's 32,000 engagements, which if you break it up over 100 episodes, and that might go up by the time this is out, but that's about 320 people either listening or watching per episode, which is pretty crazy. That's a pretty hype hardcore show.
That's pretty sick.
Yeah.
I'd take that at a hardcore show any day.
Yeah. It's been a long time since I've been to a hardcore show with 320 people.
No doubt.
So before I jump to the next point, I have to I'm going to say thank you multiple times in this podcast, but seriously, anyone who's been listening, even just once, if this is your first time,
welcome.
There's 99 or even 100 other episodes to go listen to, but seriously, thank you anyone who's even checked out one, shared one, get all that good stuff. Like, again, like 100 episodes. I'm not even sure where we're at for how many live sets we filmed, but we don't have that reoccurring counting up number versus the podcast. So, those are some like quick little engagement stats. I'm going to share some more stats, but I'm going to get the rest of the guys involved. So we're going to do a little bit of a guessing game as far as top episodes, where our listenership is based, and those two. I was like, I don't have a third. It's just two.
Now it's a game show. Now it's a late night game show.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go I'm going to go counterclockwise because at least on my screen, I'm in the top right, and we're going to go counterclockwise. So Jordan, you're going to be first. If you had to guess what our number one top episode is, where does your mind go with that?
Think it might be Cole from Gulch, but I'm not
That's incorrect. That is incorrect.
Oh God, I wasn't ready for this one.
I'm sorry for all the audio listeners. You're just gonna hear and ding 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 from my mouth.
I also totally went through and looked on our YouTube for every single episode.
That's cheating. That's cheating.
I did that earlier when I was looking for.
There's no cheating on while we're recording the podcast.
So
well, I wasn't looking while. This was 5 hours ago.
Technically, it wasn't cheating because he didn't.
Cole, put your phone down.
That was studying.
Matt. Okay, so I will say. Okay, we're gonna do
Don't
this.
give him a hint.
No. Back to your guess. We're gonna do Price is Right. Is that the show?
Yeah.
So it's
That
not
is
the
the show you
number
think of.
one answer, but it's on the board. So it's number 2 actually.
Oh.
So it's like okay, never mind. Yeah.
Mhm. I should have prepped that better, but I like that a lot better. So there's 5 slots. Use your imagination. There's 5 slots on the Scoped Exposure Price is Right. Matt, what do you think number 1 is?
Goodness, I'm trying to think which one got shared the most on like that I saw on like Scope's Insta story.
I'm really putting the grill on you guys right now, and
let's
I love
say
it.
Jessa. I'm gonna shout out Jessa.
Jessa?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a big fat.
No. Yeah. All right.
Oh God.
Yeah, I shouldn't have done the X for Jordan, because theoretically he got the number 2 answer, but Jessa is not on the top 5. Sorry,
It's
Jessa.
too recent.
It's just too recent. Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
What do you mean recent?
Didn't her
Oh,
episode-
the episode is too recent. Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even like, okay, I won't even say that. I don't want to give any clues. Cole,
Yeah. Cold.
Fuck.
Cold
Oh,
there's
man.
4 slots. What's the number 1
I'm trying
answer?
I'm trying to think, like which one. It's one of the earlier ones. It has to be.
I know people are listening to this screaming at their cars like, it's obviously this one.
So it is Price is Right.
Yeah.
Fuck, I actually have no idea. I'm just gonna.
Who is the biggest guest that we've landed on the show? Think of it that way.
856, Sunny.
That's who I was about to say, but he's also too new. So
Yeah. Maybe he is.
There's Hey 56. Who's the second biggest guest? I thought this would be so obvious for you guys.
I wasn't
Seriously.
ready.
I think I got it now, but
is it? No,
As Jordan looks at his phone.
I have to see. I'd have to. If I could see the names of everyone, I could choose it.
Did you look at the stats on Spotify? Like when you go into.
I
search?
combined the audio and the YouTube.
Fuck it, I'm cheating.
Stop
we
it,
might-
Cole. Fuck
just
it, I'm
give Cole
cheating.
like 5 seconds to yell a name. Cause
Let me just see the names. I'm not even gonna look at any of the.
Hey, Can
I'm
I
just
get
gonna-
the?
There,
second
I
chance?
think there's
Oh,
a
that's
place
pretty
on the front that says top episodes. So
soon. On
it's full bore
on-
cheating right now.
on YouTube. There is. Can I have a second guess? No, that's still pretty. Recent.
You can sure. Fuck it.
Okay.
Second
Can I
guess.
have a second guess?
You know. Okay.
I
no,
guess we're
but
coming
that's
back
still-
around.
Okay. Aaron Johnson for Prom Core, but that's still pretty recent.
That's the one before Jessa.
Unbelievable. Hey,
I
at least
guess.
I'm consistent.
Jordan, you just jump in.
Isaac from Knock Loose.
Ding ding ding. That is the number
yeah.
one scoped podcast. So Isaac, I'm gonna move on because everyone's just cheating now and the game's no longer fun.
I just wanted to see the names. I can't remember names, man.
That's fair.
I was gonna say Pack, but yeah.
Okay, well Paxson is number 4.
Okay, well,
fourth
we
most
should-
engaged podcast. Number 3 is Brendan Murphy of Counterparts and
Counterparts, yeah.
That
I was
that
gonna-
was a big fish that we landed, and he was hella down.
I
Great
was gonna-
chat.
yeah.
And ironically, the number 5 of the 5, it was my best of 2020 podcast that I just did by myself. A little bit of context for that. That was like, I want to do a recap of like my favorite things from 2020. Recorded that, posted it the next day, and I think it got more engagement. There's a lot more YouTube views on that podcast specifically, aside from the audio version. And I think it's because it got copyright claimed a ton of times, so maybe it just got pushed more. I don't know. But yeah, those are
Classic.
the classic. I think it's banned in like. It said it was banned in some countries, and I started panicking because I'm like, if it's anywhere that I know of that we have listeners, I'm gonna be pissed. But it was like Istanbul or something, and I'm like, okay, sorry for the one person from Istanbul who wanted to listen to that
Unfortunate for
podcast.
Istanbul.
That's just because you have best of 2020 in the title and the thumbnail, and then people on YouTube just go crazy for that.
Well, it's
True.
also the fact that I used sound like music from bands that have actual teams who are like trying to like claim certain videos on YouTube. So like I'm sure like Code Orange, Year of the Knife, Gulch. I'm trying to think of Spirit Box is another big band that I used a
Yeah.
song of.
Rev Record. Oh no, I'm out.
I'm out. Oh yeah. So yeah, those are the top 5 episodes. Those were all really, really fun episodes. I've jokingly said with Jordan that I kind of want to do Knock Loose Bingo and have every member of that band on the podcast because obviously those episodes do well. But yeah,
It would be cool to get
2 down, 3 to go.
Brian.
I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Brian would be good. I think
yeah.
another
Just
thing.
cause, yeah.
What were you gonna say, Matt?
Just because of like how small they were back in 2013 and just like who they've become. But that's a whole different discussion. That's a whole podcast episode.
Yeah,
Mhm.
just the history of Knocked Loose.
Coming from an outsider's point of view.
Yeah, but I do think it is cool. Like, you know, Paxson was kind of the first one, and then I'm sure that influenced Isaac wanting to be on the show. But like, you know, major shout out to Isaac because he's like, I'm a fan, you know, of this podcast coming on. I think about Cody from Drain, who came on the podcast right around when quarantine was going down, and we talked about the new record. And like to my knowledge, there's not as many or any for that matter interviews with just him specifically. Like maybe Sammy will do something, but I kind of like throwing a curveball into the mix of guests and be like, hey, here's this cool band, but it's with the bass player or the second guitar player or the drummer that no one knows the name of or whatever it is.
Versatility.
Yeah, exactly. I think having some of that is key. So next little stat thing that I want to throw with you guys is listenership. So I have 3. Man, I'm just burping ridiculously. You have to put a burp filter on me.
Little burpy boy.
Yeah.
It's the end of the
Spencer's
night.
He's drinking mash. This is why he never wanted to drink mash on the podcast.
Yeah, it's not because it's like, oh, it's only for people that I mosh to. It's like, no, this shit makes me burp like a motherfucker. So I have 3 regions that are our top listener base. So, these areas of the world is where we have our most, audience. So this time, instead of going counterclockwise, we'll go clockwise. So once we guess, we should, no, this won't be the same as the one before. So once we guess it, then we'll like break down like where in that, either country or continent or whatever. So Cole, you're going to go first. So what do you think is the one country in all of the world that Scoped Exposure listeners are tuning in from?
Probably Canada.
Incorrect. It's
What?
actually United States of America at
damn,
51%.
Okay.
So
Oh.
I
Wait, so it's not Istanbul?
it's not it's not
Damn it.
Istanbul.
Damn it.
That
Yeah.
one podcast I was blocked. is
Yeah.
Now,
Just tanked.
well,
Like that obviously is I think that would make sense. We're a Canadian based entity, and having I think we definitely must have had. No, we definitely did. I watched this while it was shifting. We definitely had more of a Canadian listenership when we were starting the podcast because a lot of our guests were Canadian. They were people here in Calgary, people here in Western Canada. And then I think once Zoom, the Zoom era of this podcast came to be, we're interviewing people from, parts in the States. And I think that just, grew our overall audience and just, people who tune in regularly. So shout out to all the Americans who have been just keeping it going. So the next aspect is what do you guys think are the top 3 states that people are tuning in from? And I will say there's a slight difference between the audio listeners and the video listeners, whichever. California is number 1 in both categories.
Minnesota.
Minnesota is number 3 for video, but not on audio.
ooh.
Florida.
Florida is
Florida.
number 3 for audio and number 2 for video. So more people from Florida are watching than listening. There's
So
a
we're just
secret. The last one is the second. It's in the audio category, and it's the number 2 spot.
Idaho.
No, but close. Like think next door neighbors to Idaho.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, all the Canadians are like, oh
Ohio?
shit. It's Washington.
I gotta go.
Washington. Okay.
Yeah.
That was going to be my 5th guess.
Yeah, that was gonna be my next guess, but
It's
I didn't
gonna be
want
my
to.
5th guess.
I didn't want to show people how bad I'm at geography.
Yeah, I think
American.
I think
I didn't know we were
Washington
going to school today.
is. I'm not trying to school everyone, but I hope it's interesting for people who are watching and listening to be like, oh,
It is. Yeah.
I didn't think a
mean,
Canadian podcast would have more of an American listenership. I think that's kind of sick.
is cool.
I'm finding it interesting just because, we're Canadian based and
Yeah, California in both categories being the number 1 makes sense in the sense of like
Yeah.
a lot of the bigger guests that we've had, Cole from Gulch, Benny from, Tsunami, and
30 different bands.
yeah, there's been a lot of California homies that have come on this show. So that makes sense that it's number one. And obviously, like, California is a big hub for hardcore, so that makes sense. I'm sure that if I had more guests from New York or New Jersey or Philadelphia, those numbers might grow as well. So maybe that's a season 2 thing of the podcast. So Cole answering incorrectly, Canada is number 2 as far as regions go. What do you guys think is the top provinces? So for all the 51% of American listeners, our states are provinces. There's your little tidbit of information for the day.
Do you want to get one of the other guys want to answer that one, or should I?
I feel like this one should be easier, but no one's like, where's this
I'll
state?
go for it.
Yeah, Matt can go for it.
Alberta.
Alberta's number 1.
No,
That's pretty obvious, but yeah, Alberta's number 1.
cool.
Number 1, baby.
BC.
BC is number 3.
Oh.
So there's something in the middle there that's number 2.
Manitoba.
Manitoba is not on the list.
Ontario.
It's Ontario. Ontario is number 2. So top 3 provinces who are listening is Alberta, Ontario, BC. Ontario, I think, have a lot of friends there, and I think just, I think that's just a larger scene across that province. So I think a lot of people are tuning in regularly from there. Made a lot of really cool friends in the last year through this podcast from there. We have done a number of different interviews with people from Winnipeg or from Regina, but my assumption or my hypothesis, if anything, is those people will tune in for those guests, but maybe not latch onto every single one. Plenty of BC people to come on this podcast. Taylor from DPK, Steph from Punitive Damage, Aram from Change. So that makes sense. But obviously, being based in Alberta, we're going to have all the Berta for listenership here.
Shout out to Alberta.
Berta, baby.
So the last, little stat quiz, that substitute teacher Spencer is hitting you guys with is our number 3 listenership. So this is somewhere else in the world, not within North America. That's your one hint. It's not New Mexico or Mexico or whatever. New Mexico is in the States. I'm realizing that now.
Yeah.
It's not Mexico.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but
yeah, I'll cut that out.
Her.
But this is another country around the world where we have. I'll look at the actual percentage of what it is, but Jordan,
should we guess?
Yeah, Jordan, you guess.
Where was?
And this is, it's not a lot. It's 3% of our listenership, but 3% out of all the listens that we've had is still a sizable amount.
So I just have to choose between 150 other countries.
Pretty much.
All right, cool.
It's one that we would all know. It doesn't have a weird name. I'll say that.
Oh, dang it. I'll say UK.
No, it is not the United Kingdom.
What? That was going to be my guess.
Australia.
No. We were closer
Russia?
though with United Kingdom. It's in
Oh,
that.
No.
It's within Europe.
No.
Okay, let's go.
France?
No, but you're getting closer, I think. Yeah. You're on the same landmass, I think.
Well, either we can keep guessing European countries, or you can tell us. I
Okay.
can go through the entire thing. But...
Did you just
Answer
you
your
said what
question.
everyone who's listening to this podcast has been thinking? It's like, I think I'm over this segment. It's
Everyone's just-
Germany. Germany is
Ooh,
our number 3, and
That's cool.
I
That's very
think
cool.
I think that 3% was really off of we didn't do a lot of European guests on the show, but the two that come to mind are David Tan, but he's out of Scotland, so. But he's got, fans from all over. But I think it was the Hosser podcast that I did. They're within that German space.
Yeah.
So that's my hypothesis again for those numbers.
3% is a fairly big number, though, for any kind of internet content.
Yeah. Where did it go? I just wanted to quickly shout out all the other random little areas of the world that people are tuning in from, because I think if I was on the end of that, I'd be like, yeah, I would like to know that. So United States are number 1, Canada's number 2, Germany, Australia, United Kingdom, that was your guess there, Jordan. We got Belgium, Philippines, Netherlands, Ireland, Indonesia, Finland, Hong Kong, New Zealand, Japan, Russia, Singapore, France, Norway, Sweden, Argentina, Austria, Spain, Mexico, Bulgaria, and the list goes on and on and on.
So
Those are
can
all
you
the
say
less than 1%. But for
so
me,
we're worldwide.
even if it's one person from frickin' Peru, because that is
You
on
matter.
there, that's super cool that someone in Peru knows somewhat of who I am in hardcore, and I think that's very, very, very cool. The very what do you guys think is the last thing on the list with the lowest percentage? Even though less than
Madagascar.
1% is the same. Madagascar?
Istanbul.
Istanbul. No, it was Puerto Rico. Shit. Okay, so let's get off the math, off the stats. Let's talk about some of our favorite guests that we've all had on the show. I've had the pleasure to be interviewing with a lot of different people. I would say it's more than 100 guests even, because we haven't really had any repeat episodes aside from the odd team episode. But we've had, a full band come on the podcast. Cole, all of Snake Pit came on. I think
right.
That was a fun episode.
Matt, can you fact check my guess for the episode number? I think it was 26. We had two of the guys in Hosser, and then like two of their roommates. So there's 4. We had half of Vatican.
For Vatican, yeah. Wasn't it like 2 or 3 guys? was 2
Vatican
guys.
was just Thomas and John, so it was just 2.
Right.
But
So 2.
again, like I like that. I like being able to have multiple
Yeah.
voices and perspectives in the room. So let's go around and share some of our what were your guys' some favorite guests and why. Cole, let's start with you this time.
Okay. I think my favorite. I've had a few favorites. My favorite recent one is definitely Sunny, but my favorite overall is probably Adam Dyson from Withdrawal. I think that was just one of my favorites because Withdrawal was one of my first bands that really got me into hardcore. That kind of more hardcore style kind of music, and going to shows in Calgary, that kind of is what propelled me into this kind of stuff. So getting to hear Adam talk about that stuff and what he was into, and that whole episode was super sweet.
Yeah, that episode was really funny because, again, going back to the very beginning of this podcast where I was like, recording episodes literally wherever, I recorded that episode of the podcast in, I guess, the Dyson dungeon. It was Adam's basement apartment. It was the tiniest room, and we're like in front of his computer. I had a GoPro mounted on a light that he had in the middle of the room, so it's like this little sliver of a pole, and I had a GoPro mounted. if I don't know if he took a photo. I don't think I did, but I kind of wish I did, just to show how ridiculous that setup is to do that episode. But yeah, that was a really, really fun conversation. Adam is an absolute clown in the best way.
Yeah.
And
he's great.
I would definitely love to have him on again. Matt is like really looking at his phone here. Like
I'm trying to fact check. So.
that's fine. Matt, what was your favorite episode?
Mine was Cole from Gulch. and because he talked about his printing company, which I have to fact check myself, was Cool Hand.
Printhead.
Printhead, yeah.
Printhead, yeah.
You
Right as I
had
said
the
that,
right idea, just
right,
different synonyms.
right as I said it, I pulled it up. But yeah, just his like analogy on like how he was talking about how he wanted to just do it himself, and then as he got busier, he had to upgrade his equipment, which then he felt like he wasn't doing as much handwork as to like letting the machine take over, which is understandable in a lot of things when you want to get better at what you're doing, but you have to upgrade into some things that you don't have as much like dirty handwork in, but you can also produce quality over quantity, or quantity with the same quality but better. And so
yeah, I think one of the craziest things of talking about his printing operation is how he started, that he literally like put out a post saying, hey, I do this, and having no experience or like really knowledge, and then someone booked him and he's like, okay, I gotta learn how to do this. And I think that was really interesting.
And then like the first like couple of runs that he didn't turn out, but it like he didn't stop. Like he still pursued it, and he wasn't doing it for the money or
Cole, you know,
that was my favorite.
We're out of order here, but like what, you know, being someone who does screen printing as well, and someone named Cole.
I know, that's such a weird thing right now.
Yeah.
You guys have something in common.
Yeah. Multiple things in common even.
Yeah.
What was the biggest takeaway for you for that podcast?
Well, it was cool to like have another person talk about that kind of stuff, because we don't really get to hear about it that much, but it's cool, seeing that perspective of how he had started and the way he's had established himself now with better machines. And I started following him actually after that podcast, and I followed his page, and he does like some really, really good stuff. He does a lot of just a lot of crazy like accurate design prints, and like I think it was great.
Yeah, I do think, you know, me and Cole have talked. We got a couple things I'll talk at the very end of this podcast about, but you know, hearing how his operation has scaled over the years, it really, you know, makes me want to work with Cole, like as far as doing scope merch and different things as well, and try and take that to that level that he has. I think the craziest, you know, he did like an 8-color print for Dare recently, and I was like, I think the most that you can currently do, Cole, is like 3 or 4.
Yeah, 4, yeah.
And you know, like that's his dedicated workspace, and you're doing stuff like kind of off-site. So you know, it kind of like, as soon as I knew there was multiple times through that interview, I was like, this is all stuff that I want to you know, help work with Cole to get to that level, because
totally,
I know you're big into that.
Definitely, yeah. He's definitely big in any screen printer really that's established. I take a lot of inspiration from, like even Reed from Cursed Earth Apparel. He's another local Calgary screen printer, and he does a lot of stuff for the metal bands here, and he's also another big inspiration to me for that, just because he does amazing work, and it's something that I like to do as well, and I want to achieve that as well.
This is a totally off-topic question, but Jordan, how's your Bev going?
Oh, it's gone.
It's
I finished that in like the first 10 minutes.
It was that good. What's the flavor?
Yeah,
it's like mango, raspberry, or something wild like that.
Whoops, that's French. No, that wasn't French. Mango passion.
Oh,
mate.
Passion mate. That sounds sexual.
But it's made with a I got a light right there with a hyphen over the E, so that's why I thought it was the French side.
Passion or whatever. Yeah. Well, getting back on track, I was just drinking my Bev, and I was like, where's the comprehensive Bev review that I asked for?
Jordan, it was really good. It was really smooth. It went down nice.
Would you check again?
No, I haven't checked again. It's still gone.
No, would you check it again?
Would you check again?
Like,
Oh, I would check again. Yeah.
okay. Just like, yeah, it was great. Would you check again? Nope.
Hell
okay.
no.
Okay.
Did you check again?
damn.
No, it's already gone.
Yeah. Jordan, what was your favorite guest?
My favorite guest was Dan Nisha of Monolith AB fame. I think he was like episode 12.
It's pretty early, yeah.
Yeah, when we were
All of
discussing
13.
episodes before recording, I was like, that's a deep cut. Very early
That's
in
deep
the
cut.
show.
There was also spoilers. There was also Cole's favorite episode, but I stole it from him.
It's true.
It was an amazing one. That was one of the ones where we're filming it in person.
Mhm.
So I'm sitting off the side in a chair, and I think, like, you know, when you watch a movie and you're like so engrossed in it, you're like sitting your hands like this and you're like can't take your eyes off the screen.
Yeah.
That was me the entire episode. It was amazing. Dan has amazing stories, amazing storyteller, just enthralls you as he tells it.
Yeah, I agree.
And he's just like one of the most chill guys ever.
Totally,
It's
man.
true.
Like, I was just like, this is so cool.
Yeah.
I remember first festival I went to, which was Western Front. He played, and he talks about it in the episode where he plays with his microphone like this, and he sings like
Really
this.
cool stat.
Like that.
And like that was distinct. I was like, I instantly remember that. I still remember like standing to the side of the pit waiting for it to start, and then seeing this guy pull his mic and go you're like, what? For any audio
Every
listeners
other
that-
hardcore vocalist is like,
yeah, every
Cup the
every
mic.
hardcore vocalist is like normal, and this is up. For any audio listeners, he's average height, but he has his microphone stand above his head with the microphone aiming down. For
Or
anyone
like a-
that doesn't have a visual right now.
yeah,
Like a UFC announcer.
yeah.
Old
Yeah.
school.
Open up a separate
Uh,
tab, search Monolith AB Western Front or Scoped Exposure,
Go
and
onto
you'll
our
see it.
YouTube page.
Yeah.
Or our website.
Like,
Oh.
follow, subscribe. But yeah, no, that's my favorite. That one's amazing.
Yeah, that was a really fun interview. You know, Dan, it was one of those things that was like, again, not really trying to overthink who I bring on the podcast. And that was like very apparent early on. It was like Dan cut my hair like when he was living in Calgary, and I was like, do you want to come on the podcast and talk about Monolith, even though Monolith isn't really a band right now? And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And it was a great conversation. And again, going back to what I was saying earlier, like, I don't care if an episode gets like 20 listens or 200,000. Like, I'm just stoked to have good conversations that people can tune in for and, you know, learn. Like, they don't even need to like the band for the person they're listening to. They might just enjoy, you know, what they have to say. That's a huge thing at the end of the day. Favorite guest for me, this was kind of hard, obviously, with a lot of the different things. You know, I feel like, you know, Hey 5-6 would be an obvious choice for me. Huge inspiration and reason that Scoped exists, and, you know, big inspiration to me creatively. You know, having him as like episode 99, aka episode 100, because with the pilot episode, the reason I wanted to do episode 99 is because growing up, 99 has always been like my favorite number, and it's because I would play like sports, like video games, and the highest number you can give someone's jersey is 99, and it's Wayne Gretzky's number, and I was just like, it's the highest number, it's the best in the game. So I was like, Sonny, you need to be 99. He was down for it, shared a lot of good things, talked a lot about just like archiving stuff that, you know, really, I'm still getting messages to this day of people being like, yo, that episode was awesome. As far as like, you know, I apologize, guys. I didn't ask you for honorable mentions, so maybe we can just do some quick honorable mentions, kind of, you know, just shout them out if you're like, oh, I definitely want to shout out these. For me, I want to shout out Benny from Tsunami, rolling a blunt and sharing some fun stories, as well as Isaac from Knocked Loose. You know, that brought like #1 episode for a reason. Guys huge in hardcore and said a lot of really cool things. I also want to give an honorable mention to Max Moore, who, again, not a huge episode as far as engagement goes, but gave me a lot to think of from a director's music video standpoint. Matt, do you have a visitor?
Yeah.
Oh, just in and out.
Shout out to Braden.
Shout out to Braden. But yeah, Max came on the podcast and, talked a lot about like the Code Orange music videos that he did that, are essentially viral videos at this point. But yeah, he gave a lot of insight to me and I gained a lot from that. So honorable mention, shout outs, go. Come on, guys.
I'll
There's
start. I'll
there's a
start.
gap.
I'll start.
Whoa, not everyone in the class go all at the same time.
I'm a terrible teacher.
It's okay.
Honorable mention for me would probably be Cole Young from Trench,
Definitely,
Suicide Kings. Yeah, he's just a fucking solid ass dude. Fucking look up to him literally because he's super tall. Also, yeah, I just love it. I love all of the music he makes, and I loved that episode. It was fun.
Yeah, very talented dude. If this is a little, we're sharing all the behind the scenes of the podcast here, but we actually he was the first time we recorded at the library, because I remember that Jordan and I went to his house and we were trying to envision the setup, and we're like, you know what? Let's rebook this and do it at the library. And that was the very first time we did that podcast there.
That's sick.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We actually forgot to hit record on the audio recorder.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And that's why we had to redo it at the library.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
was
Thank you, Jordan,
hesitating
for
on throwing
correcting
you under the
the
bus, but I've now.
We
thrown
did
you under
record the
bus.
podcast. I forgot to hit record.
I
My
thought
memory
Cole
you were
card
Young,
filled up.
right
who
now.
is an absolute G, was like, "It's all good. Let's just do it again at the library." I totally forgot about that.
I also my memory card filled up, and that's why we paused. And then we looked, and he went to hit stop, and it hadn't started.
I'm telling you guys,
A absolute nightmare.
there's been hiccups with this show. Like, that's how you
Not
do
everything's
shit.
perfect. Not everything's perfect.
Yep.
Any
Sorry,
other
Spencer.
honorable mentions before I close the honorable mentions door?
I wanna shout out another designer in the scene is John Mayo. Recent episode 91, because I've been following him for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
and so hearing more about who he is and what the craziness goes behind his designs are, I was really excited to see him tweet about that he's jumping on the podcast, and then of course,
That was funny because I just like asked him and he's like, yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then he just like put it out into the ethos. I'm like, okay, like let's pick a date before you announce it to Twitter.
yeah.
But honestly, John is an absolute, like, just a gem of a dude. Really
The
influential for
flyer
me.
story.
Yeah.
That was funny.
John was very influential to me, just being in Winnipeg hardcore and him putting on a lot of key shows, putting my bands, both, hardcore bands and not quite hardcore bands, on shows. But yeah, John, I'm really glad that we got to finally do that, and he got to share some really great stories. Jordan, you got the floor for honorable mentions before we move on.
Well, I was gonna say Brandon from Counterparts or Sunny, but those have both been said a bunch. I'll take another early one. I'll do Gabe the Pigeon, and or Dawn from Swing Low. I'm trying to just bring up all the old out podcast episodes.
That you were in the room for? Yeah.
Yeah, all the episodes I was in the room for. I really like those ones.
Yeah.
But no, a lot of all of the online ones are also really good. Those are just the ones that I like vividly remember because I was there.
Ironically, both Gabe and Dawn's episode are both guests that I would love to have back on the show for two reasons. First, they're both really cool people and have a lot of really cool things to say in hardcore. Two, I don't feel like those interviews like show my growth as a host on the show. I think they were like very early. I was asking some very kind of weird questions and transitions. So, Dawn, if
Early
you're
days
listening,
Spencer.
podcast again.
Yeah, those would be two really good guests for like returning and having back on.
Definitely. And thank you for segueing that so well.
I made a point of doing that specifically to set you up.
That's why you're the
threw you under
podcast
the bus
producer,
earlier.
man.
I let you on the bus this time.
Fair enough.
Oh, sweet.
Big brain podcast.
So yeah,
Friendship
this
goals.
final section before we start to wrap up the show, guys, is future guests that we would like to see for season 2 of the podcast. Maybe what we can do is we can do a guest that hasn't been on the podcast before, and then definitely a returning guest from season 1. Matt, you go.
Ooh, so I'll do like season 2 new guest. I would like to see Jordan Chase, local Kelowna. He
Oh,
does
Jordan.
all
Yeah.
of- yeah. O'Delly recording. He
I
he
think
did
it's
all the
Ukulele.
Ukulele. I
Yeah.
knew I was gonna mess that up. Whatever. But yeah, no, just because of how long he's been around the scene, and like he's had a crazy journey for the music industry, and now a lot of Calgary bands like Trench made the trip down, and I think Cole talked about it in the podcast and that whole adventure. And so it'd be cool just to hear an hour conversation with him. And then
Yeah, Jordan's put out a plethora of killer music last
Yeah.
year. You know, Trench comes to mind.
World of Pleasure.
World of Pleasure, the Cloaker EP. He did the mix for the
Live.
Scope session as
the
well.
scope session.
So yeah, like
Working with him was a dream and also really smooth. And
yeah.
no.
Yeah, there's a couple Kelowna guests that I have at least on my radar to at least inquire with. But yeah, Jordan would definitely be a great one. What about a returning guest? Anyone come to mind that you would like to hear
I have
more
to-
chats from?
I have to fact check because Gabe from Belligerence, just to like
Yep.
recap, because like because of Scope, I latch onto him and his band, and just like I've been seeing them making a lot of moves and crazy things.
Yeah,
so-
our episode was like we went on so many tangents that I had to like pull him back to like talk about your band. This is your podcast, but we like
This is
went down the
about you.
rabbit hole.
no, exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
it was fun.
Shout out to
and
Gabe. Listen to Belligerence.
Their music's sick. So
Definitely.
shout out.
Jordan, how about you go next?
Well, I already said my returning guest, I guess, with Dawn and
Dawn and Gabe
would be cool
Yeah.
to come back.
Gonna have 2 Gabe episodes. Potentially.
fine.
That's fine.
Gabe's are cool.
Games are cool. They're pretty cool.
Shout out to
my
all the
guest,
Gabes.
though, I'm gonna have Jesse Kepford from Swing Low / Snow and Flurry
Mhm.
fame. He brought us out there for Snow and Flurry. Amazing, chill guy. I love to have a full conversation with him. I'm
Mhm.
sure he'd be an amazing podcast episode.
Definitely echo that. I'll just say it because eventually it will happen. There has been talks about doing a Snow and Flurry festival podcast episode. Sorry, I got distracted because Cole was pulling up a browser.
Let's go.
It's like
Right.
so bright. No, but yeah, Jesse and I have talked about doing an episode. That depending if someone's listening to this in 5 months, it could be out and recorded or whatever. But yeah, Snow and Flurry is it was the very last hardcore festival that a lot of us went to, like on this call, and not even being able to go to Wild Rose before COVID hit. I think about those bands and those sets and just the vibe of being in the Midwest, and it's got me eager to go back for another festival when that's safe to do so. Mad shout out to all the Snow and Flurry festival promoters and all the bands that we've obviously made lots of connections and friends with over the years through that festival. So, oh yeah, you're done. It's Cole's turn. I was like,
Yeah, I'm done.
I had to double check that what I'm saying isn't already been done, and I'm just being an idiot.
No, you're good.
I was gonna say I would love to see any of the members from Wake to talk about their recent signing to Metal Blade Records, which is fucking huge. Any of those guys would be sick. Like maybe even just Rob or Ryan, and any of them would be awesome.
I will also say that I messaged Rob before this podcast, and that will be happening well early into season 2. So
Let's go.
Let's go.
all the announcements for
Shout
all the
out to
people
Brian.
listening an hour and 20 minutes into this podcast.
Gotta give the people what they
Canadian
want.
grindcore.
Yeah. As far as returning guests, who comes to mind for you there, Cole?
Maybe someone that we could have back would be cool, like Sunny again. Maybe like once things happen again, and we could talk more to him about more stuff, or just get back with him would be cool. I can't really think of anyone else that I would want.
Yeah, I feel like the joke would die fast if it was like Sunny is the last guest of every season. Like I have to reserve that for someone truly, I can't just save that for one, but like obviously chatting with Sunny, that's not the one and only time hopefully he'll be on the podcast. I would love to have him. This is the long road, like Joe Rogan's into like his I don't know. He's into the 1,000th episode mark, and it's like
I'll fact check it.
Damn.
I've never
Yeah,
watched
let's
a Joe
see
Rogan
that.
podcast.
Matt.
I don't know.
I
wanna
don't
see clips
either.
of it.
The
Yeah.
dude's doing a podcast a day, so
So
that's
the last
believe
one,
you.
the last episode that he posted, which was today, was so he's on episode 1608.
Damn.
man's
So-
cranking, but
We can
has
catch
been
up to
cranking
that.
for years.
Yeah.
So
I think
we
he's
can
been
catch
doing
up.
it-
We can catch up.
This pandemic is long enough. We can catch up. Just do one
I
a day.
think he's
We'll
been
do 2 a
doing
day.
it for 10 years. I think he's been doing it for 10 years.
Yeah,
So
Joe's a machine. As far as future guests for me, there's definitely a lot of people that I have I'm reaching for the stars for season 2. Obviously the podcast, I always wanted to be open to have smaller bands come on and, help promote them and get their word out. But, the fact that we've landed some bigger fish in the hardcore sea is like, it gets my brain turning of like, well, what if we can get this person? So I have like a top 3 that I have. So and this is in no particular order, but number 1 would be Jamie of Code Orange. There's signs that he knows about the podcast, but it's just finding him at the right time to respond to the Code Orange DMs. One day. It's going to happen. I know it's going to happen. It's just when. I would love to talk to Courtney from Spirit Box.
that'd be very cool.
For those that don't, Spirit Box is a wildly known, metalcore outfit out of Vancouver Island, British Columbia, and I think they're just putting a lot of new eyes on just Western Canada music. Western Canada music. So talking with her about that would be really, really cool. And also because a lot of people I've discovered through Scoped in the last year are like big Means fans, and Means is like one of the biggest bands to get me into local shows and music out here in Canada overall. It was not the very first hardcore show I went to, but it was one of those like moments where it like hooked me for life. So if I could talk with Dylan, their lead singer, or really any of the members to just talk about that band and how they did so many things, starting in Dauphin and then going to Regina, and just the melodic hardcore nature, that would be a huge check off my list. So those are my future ones. As far as returning guests go, there's a lot. I'm trying to navigate if the percentage of how many return guests we have, because I don't want it to be like 50% of the guests on season 2 came in season 1. It's got to be like 15 to 20% at most. But a few off the top of my head would probably be Benny's episode was really, really fun. We had
That was a
lots of
fun one.
jokes. I would love to bring on Eric Easterday again. A huge creative influence, I know, to a lot of people on the call here. And, just has a lot of really good insights on just advertising and marketing in hardcore and heavy music. So that would be very, very cool. And then if I had to do one more, man, now I'm under the gun. I have to.
You don't have to. By the way.
No. I got it. I didn't even have to look. I just needed a second. My last return guest, which I'm in the process of locking in for season 2, is Anaya from Dare and Zulu. I'll say it like the time that we were doing a lot of those podcasts that were very serious, and talking about just Black Lives Matter and all the stuff that was happening in the world at that time. I'm wanting to reach out to those people to be like, hey, I would love to have you come on the podcast again, and like, I don't want you to feel pressured to only have a serious conversation, So Anaya we're in the process of locking that down. I know Naraya, who we met at Snow and Flurry. He plays in a band called Prime. He reached out. He's down to come on again for season 2. So there's definitely going to be a lot of those, a lot of those things. There's so many. I have a document I'm looking at on my laptop here that has my hit list, and it's hefty. It's hefty.
It's a chunky boy.
It's a chunky boy. But obviously we wouldn't be able to have this amount of reach or number of episodes without all the people who have been listening every week, multiple times a week, sharing the podcast with friends, commenting, all everything. Any amount of engagement that anyone has given us has gone a long way, and I just want to stop here and say I really appreciate it. I was a little scared, but when shows were dissolving, where it's like, are people going to care about Scoped Exposure when we don't have live footage to post? And it's become very clear that people are just stoked that we provided them with some valuable content, and that makes me stoked for when shows do come back. We'll have I want to hit the ground running with that and do a lot of shows all across Canada and around the world, but also be doing a lot of podcast stuff and not letting the return of shows slow that down by any means. So again, I want to say thank you to everyone that was listening over the last 100 episodes. Before we end it officially, tradition here on the podcast, as you guys all know, is a Mosh story that we have to share. So we've been going for a minute, so it doesn't have to be a big, long, elaborate story. But if you guys, I feel like it would be wrong to end this podcast without doing that.
We mentioned it on the Snow and Flurry one, but since we're talking about podcasts, I'll re-bring the story up. I think we talked about it. How me and Spencer both filming, and at separate points during the festival. I got kicked off stage twice, and Spencer got his camera almost like someone did a flip and almost kicked his camera off into the crowd.
Yeah. So many flying bodies at that fest.
Insane. You can also, I don't remember what sets they are, but you can go back and you can watch it. And you can see exactly that moment where I get knocked off stage, and separate set, Spencer gets his camera kicked out. I think Spencer's is low end. I'm not sure. I
think you're right. I think it is low end. Low end was just like, all right, everybody in the Midwest, get on the stage and jump off. And it was like everyone from Milwaukee, Minneapolis, and everyone in between's like, okay, Jimmy. And they went and did that. Matt, your time for a Mosh story.
So I'm not usually in the mosh pit because I'm usually behind the camera, but my favorite mosh story is probably back when Harm's Way played Wild Rose, and I just said screw it, and I ended up cartwheeling during one of their songs, and
Cartwheel moshing is like some powerful
I don't see
flexing.
it happen often. So there is video footage. Dan caught it, and it's somewhere deep dive in our Twitter. But yeah, I cartwheeled during Harm's Way, and I was like, well, I don't know when I'm going to see them again, and this is a ruthless pit,
Right.
so let's go for it. And now I can say that I cartwheeled during Harm's Way,
There you go.
and
What-
I would do it again.
Always cartwheeling for Harm's Way.
Yeah,
Cole,
this is hardcore 2022.
cartwheels only for the Harm's Way
Cartwheels only.
sets.
Okay, so Mosh Story. Okay, I don't know. Maybe this. I think we've talked about this before too, but probably back when the Commons Church was a thing in Calgary, it was a mortality rate show. They were filming. I was filming videos. This is before I met you, I think.
Yes. Yeah.
And
I
we've
know
definitely
this
talked
story.
about this. We've definitely talked about this before, but it was just classic church antics, mosh pit, kind of side to side, no real like middle spot because it's so small and everyone's on the side, so it's kind of just like a death pit in between.
Yeah.
And I'm on the one side, and I'm filming this video actually, so I wasn't taking photos during mortality rate, but Evan McIsaac, he's doing his crazy spin kick moshes, and I panned to him, and his foot comes around, and it's like literally like maybe that close from just clipping the shit out of my camera. That I got it on camera. I got it filmed, so it was cool.
Yeah. In a very close alternate reality, that kick just destroys your camera and you never film shows again.
That could have been the defining moment of me never taking photos again. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the Peter.
So my Mosh Story, I was thinking about a couple of things while you guys were talking, and I'm gonna shout out, go back in time to the Scoped 2-year anniversary. It was Endgame's second show, and it was almost like the first time that Luca came on to do guest vocals for Above the Law. It was named something. The song was actually named something else then, but that's not important.
Fun fact.
He comes on stage, does the guest vocal spot, and Wolf is just notorious for like, okay, I think he did this at our first show actually. He like would mosh in the crowd. Even it was for the same part too, which is funny now that I'm saying this all out loud. So it's this one part in that song. He hands off the mic to Luca. He's moshing. Luca's like spitting fire. And then he just goes and does the loudest "Ugh," and it's the breakdown, and he cartwheels off the stage. And shout out to Haley, who was filming, because I wasn't filming. Jordan and Haley were filming dual camera, but Haley caught it where Luca cartwheels and literally kicks Wolfgang in the head, who's moshing for his own band. And then the video
Only
cuts
Wolfgang.
to Jordan's angle, and without hesitation, like Wolfgang is on the ground, like dazed and confused, and Luca grabs him and flips his 6'5" body over and is like smoking like 4 kids in one go, and just like continues moshing, and Wolfgang stands up. He's like, what the fuck just happened?
I don't know if that's the same part, but I'm pretty sure he also took out the one speaker that was right next to me as well on the same flip.
It might be the same flip. I might just be distracted off of just like the KO to Wolfgang.
I think it might be, because I think I had to catch the speaker while I was filming.
Doing
And so I have,
one of
one
these.
hand on the camera, one hand's behind me holding the monitor from falling down.
Multitasking.
I'm gonna give a bonus Mosh story to this podcast because we're 100 episodes. There's no rules. Lower
Spencer's
species
rapping.
DPK 5-year. Dustin from this
Oh,
is
yes.
one of the best things that I've ever caught in film. Dustin, who to my knowledge is homies with these guys, is like ironically filming Lower Species like this. For the visual listeners, I'm like just like huddled down with the flash on, and I forget the name of the guitar player, but he, without hesitation, just boops him in the face. And like, I'm zoomed in on Dustin because I'm like, oh, this is kind of funny. He's just being like kind of ironic. And then just him like a cartoon. And like it got memed the following day, and people were talking about it at like the next day of the fest. I think I put it on like those, what is it? The famous Canadian moments. It's just him being kicked in the face with his phone with the flash on.
That was so good.
Yeah, that came to mind when I was sharing the Endgame story, so I had to share that one as well.
That was a good
yeah.
moment.
So this is the end of episode 100. Again, thank you so much, anyone. If you made it this long in this 100 episode podcast,
We love you.
we love you. You know, again, like good. We're planning a lot for season 2, and it's borderline crazy town. Think like season 1 on steroids. There's a lot of things Jordan had mentioned, like we can't talk about it. Like I literally got a package today of something that we're working on that's going to be a standard. You know, there's going to be a plethora of new guests, a plethora of like really big guests that I'm going to try and get, or I'm in the process of getting. You know, I've never said this on the podcast as far as like pushing people and like how can I support the show, Spencer? But if you can follow us, subscribe to the YouTube channel, give us a rating if you're on Apple. Like as corny as that shit sounds, that goes a long way in podcast land. So if I've brought you any good chats or stories and you want to help out, do that. We're actually going to be taking a podcast break for a couple weeks. And this is, you know, just not putting out content. It's just giving us time to fine tune all the stuff that we have planned for season 2. And going to be premiering back on March 2nd. So mark your calendar. That's Scoped Podcast Season 2 drop. It's going to be epic. I'm very, very excited for it. And again, I appreciate y'all for just sticking with us and, you know, growing this new aspect of our brand. And, you know, we got a lot of cool things coming down the pipe, and none of it would be inspired or possible without anyone listening on the other side. So anything else to say, guys? Or do we hit it all?
Fucking
Like
nailed it.
every BC rapper says, big things coming. Follow my social media.
Yes, sir.
Speaking of that, all the guys' handles and, you know, doings will be in the description and all that. Yeah, guys, thanks for joining me on the podcast and chatting. You know, I'm glad to, you know, not do this 100 episode by myself and gonna have my fucking boys with me. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening to the podcast, and stay blessed. That's the last thing I'll say.
So, y'all.